The simple way to think about what a metaverse is a collection of interconnected virtual worlds that people can go and interact with and be embodied in.
There is such amazing promise from the AI metaverse, I mean, for humanity, but also there are a lot of risks.
The world where we take this technology and share it with everybody is actually the unlikely future. It is not the future. It is not the default future that will happen. In fact, unless we actively promote and educate the public, educate the leaders about their role in creating this future,
we'll need to change to have the metaverse powered by AI.
The reality is that these machines are going to make all of these widgets in the next 10 to 20 years. All the cognitive work will be done by AI. All of the manual labor will be done by robots. So our ability to contribute to making things will actually go towards zero, right? So where should we be putting our energy?
So if we don't have these new needs, not only if we need to work, but how is then the revolution will be for the people from the states? You are talking about a new social pact of human beings? Today in Futuro, my love, I am so happy to introduce to you guys Alvin W. Graylin. He is a global AI and XR thought leader, author of Our Next Reality, and chairman of the Virtual World Society. With more than 30 years in the intersection of AI and XR semiconductors and cybersecurity, he has held executive roles at HTC, Intel, IBM. Currently, Alvin is a digital fellow at Stanford HAI and lecturer at MIT. Graylin is frequently global keynote speaker and media commentator on the societal impact of AI, immersive text, and policy. With dual MS master degrees from MIT and AI and management, he bridges deep technical expertise with a strategic business vision and draws on decades of cross-cultural leadership experience bridging the US and China. Alvin, so happy to have you here.
Margarita, thank you for the invitation. I look forward to our conversation.
Yes, definitely. And of course, we need to talk about this amazing book that you and Lewis came up with it in 2000. Our Next Reality. In 2024, just little time ago, and absolutely is focused on the AI-powered metaverse. I mean, the metaverse has been like something that maybe many people think about, but we really don't understand or really don't see how it's going to happen. What is the definition of that?
Yeah, so I think there's been a lot of confusion around the term because it's been co-opted by different people based on some of the personal agendas that they have. The reality is that the simple way to think about what a metaverse is a collection of interconnected virtual worlds that people can go and interact with and be embodied in. It's essentially the 3D version of the internet that we have today. So instead of having millions or hundreds of millions of websites, you essentially have millions or hundreds of millions of virtual worlds. We have lived in we live in a 3D world, right? So our senses, our brain, everything works better actually in a 3D environment. It's going to take some time for the 3D environment to actually be part of our daily lives, of our digital lives. But I think it's an inevitable future where that will happen. We will probably initially use 2D devices like phones, laptops, tablets to experience these 3D worlds. But in the not too distant future, we will have glasses and headsets that will also put us into these environments as well. And I think particularly the glasses is going to be a very important part of allowing people to experience that.
Yeah, I see. And also, um, yeah, we understand metaverse as something that we can access throughout a device, glasses or Oculus or different kind of devices.
Yeah.
But as I can see in your book, you're mentioning that really it's not the focus the device, but it's how do we need to develop as human beings the metaverse that
Mhm.
we can have access like in our normal reality without any device. So that means that we need to build and power it by AI, that is artificial intelligence, that apparently is a supreme new power for human beings.
Yeah, so I think that's the probably the difference of what Lewis and I have been talking about more is the integration of AI with metaverse, and together they will enable us not only to have better entertainment, but also better education, better productivity, and maybe also better mental health.
Yeah.
Particularly as we move to a society in the near term where AI becomes more and more productive and more independent, that it starts to displace a lot of human workers, we will need to have another place as an outlet for our energy, both our emotional energy and our cognitive energy, so that we have a sense of purpose and a sense of belonging, and also a way for I think for us to show value to society. And I think what will happen with what we saw 5 years ago with COVID and everybody moving to digital meetings. In fact, we're having a digital meeting right now. Uh, it's becoming much more normal to be remote from your teams and to use digital forms to interact. But our brains still work better when we are in a 3D environment. So
Yeah.
as the technology on both the AI side and the XR side both increases, we will find that the AI will enable us to have much more realistic and much more immersive experiences and much more personalized experiences. Right now, most of the content that we get today is a a one to many model. Right, essentially one content creator, and then everybody sees it, and whether it's radio or TV or websites. Everybody sees the same content. What we will find in the future is that we will have a many to many type model where many AI agents or model or creators will create customized content for every single person, so that we will see and feel and inhabit different environments in terms of the content that we create and different stories that we receive. In fact, we will be able to play a role in creating and interacting with those stories.
Alvin, but really thinking on that, that basically, as I listen and read you, it's like we are now experiencing this kind of new technology throughout devices. So that is like being an spectator. That means like we are like third person, really trying to feel it. But now with the AI metaverse, we can feel it in first person. What I wonder really is what's going to happen with our brain. I mean, because when I use these devices, I really feel my eyes and my brain tired.
Yes.
And yeah, and so if we will be in this virtual reality at the same of our own reality, what's going to happen with our brain? I mean, because we have a reptilian brain that is here before maybe we had language, and then we have this prefrontal cortex that allows us to have like feelings, kind of like more human beings as part of our evolution. And we have all together in our brains now that is a millenniums, I mean, of evolution
Mm,
ages,
yes.
but they still working together. What's going to happen with AI? What do you think?
Yeah, so I think there's different aspects of what you're describing, and when you're talking about when you put a headset, you get tired after a while. What we
Yeah,
find that what we find is that the issue is actually more with the ergonomics and the physicality of the designs, because right now most of these devices, you have something like a Vision Pro. This thing is almost 2 pounds, right?
yeah,
It's very heavy
very.
when you put it on there, and having that weight, and particularly the way it's designed right now, a lot of it is very front heavy, and so all the weight is on your nose and on your cheeks, and
Yes,
it leaves a mark, and that pressure cuts off circulation in your head, so it makes you feel tired. I think
yeah.
the issue is less with the brain feeling tired, but it's more with the body feeling tired, and your neck gets tired because it's getting pulled forward. Um,
So it's not the
well,
impact of the virtual world in your
yeah,
eyes.
so there is another aspect, which is
Yes,
the focal plane, right? So the current
yes,
devices have a single focal plane,
yeah,
which is probably about 2 to 3 meters in front of you, which is actually a relatively natural focal plane in the sense of better than phones or tablets, because phones or tablets is about 1 or 2 feet in front of you, so your eyes actually have to narrow and squeeze to be able to focus on a close distance, whereas your eyes are much more natural to look further away. So a 2 to 3 meter is a much more natural distance. But I
yes,
think the longer term, what we would like actually is to allow you to have multifocals, so that you can move the plane of focus within the screens. And there are people who are making these kind of devices. The reason that if you look at a TV, a lot of times people look at TV, there are 2 or 3 meters or 4 meters in front of them, and it's fixed. But because you can look around, and when you're not looking at the screen, your eyes focus in different places. So you're able to rest your eyes a little bit. So I think those two are the two aspects that are now creating more the more the physiological tiredness. Your brain actually likes the stimulation. Your brain is excited by the content,
yeah,
and
yeah,
the 3D content is actually more immersive. It makes you feel like you're there.
yeah,
So from that perspective, it should allow you to be more focused. And what we see from a lot of studies is that for students, you're more focused. For training, it feels more realistic. The memories that you get actually are more embedded, and you can recall them better. So there's a lot of value in being in a 3D environment.
yeah,
But for sure, it's going to take a little bit of time for the devices of today to catch up to our physiological requirements. And I think it's coming. I think within the next 2 to 3 years, we will find that the glasses that are similar to the form factors that we use on a daily basis, those will be able to do audio and video and have AI functionality all built in. So I think the hardware aspect is catching up to the applications.
yeah. I think also it could be possible to have, I know, like a way that our eyes really perceive this untangible reality, because basically there are lots of waves that are around us, like the air also, and we cannot perceive it. So maybe it's just a little more to research. How can we create this to really perceive it? And as soon as we can perceive like internet or whatever this kind of reality, we can really start building this kind of worlds. I don't know. I don't know how
Yeah,
to
no,
mention, but yeah, that
yeah, I think that, yeah, I think the hardware side is a little bit behind, but it is catching up very quickly.
yes,
And I think that the reality of the issues in the past has really been more a lack of content
yeah,
than it is the hardware barriers, because the cost of the hardware is already very affordable. For you, like you said, something like a Meta Quest is probably $300, something $400 in that range, which is less than the cost of a phone, right? And so we have billions of phones that are being used in the world, so we know that the cost is not the issue, but the reason is what is the content that's going to force people or actually incentivize people to put a device on their head, and we AI will actually help us make that content. I think that's really the key. Is that the cost of 3D content development in the past has been extremely expensive, and it requires a certain skill set that is relatively rare. But what we are finding out now is that with AI, you can create poetry with a prompt. You can create a picture with a prompt. Now you are able to create videos with a prompt. Very soon, you will be able to create virtual 3D worlds with the prompt, right? And when that happens, the amount of content that you have in 3D will grow exponentially. And when that happens, then there's more reason for me to come into a headset. I've worked with hardware device companies for a while, and the reality is, when somebody buys these devices, the first month or two, they use it a lot. And then they start to go down in usage because they start running out of the content. And then maybe a new game or a new piece of content releases and it comes up again, and then they go back down. So what that shows is it's not the hardware. It's really the content and the applications. So we
And
need
that
to
could
make
be
that.
powered by AI
Yes,
with our surveillance and yes,
yes,
our
yes,
prompts are
exactly. Because that makes the cost of production go towards zero.
yeah,
Just like right now, we're doing this video call, and it's
yeah,
costing us zero in terms of both physical costs as well as travel costs. And normally, if I was to have this meeting with you, I would have to fly to your country, and it would
yes, to
be
Mexico. And you are
be a,
now in the US, I guess, in Washington.
yes, that's
So we
right.
are together
So
here in
yes.
Futuro, my love.
Exactly, right. So, and I think very soon we will be able to have that, but not in a 2D screen, but feel like we're face to face in a 3D world. Maybe we're in the middle of a desert with a starry sky, and we can
Yeah.
see the comets and the little asteroids flying by, right? And I think that's a very different type of a feel than we have where I'm looking into the screen at you, right?
Yeah, there is such amazing promise from the AI metaverse. I mean, to for humanity, but also is there are a lot of risks. I can feel like this commitment from you and from Louis in this book, Our Next Reality, how you are really committed to really be very careful to say, okay, there are some risks. I mean, like to both sides of the same coin. Let's put me in that
Yeah.
way. I mean, there are many positive things, but also there are another that are not that positive. Many people is like having fears, raising awareness, and
Mhm.
trying to stop this. But seems that it's not. I mean, cannot be stop this evolution, right?
Yeah.
It seems that we really want to
Yeah.
go to that. Yes,
Yeah.
sorry.
This is the key reason why we wrote the book is because the problem out there today is that there's a lot of misunderstanding, and there's a lot of even experts that are out there, but they only tell one side of the story. They either write very hype driven and saying it's going to be amazing future, everything is perfect, or they write something that's very scary. AI is going to kill the world, right? And neither of those are at least confirmed realities. The reality is that the future that's coming is something that is in our hands,
Yeah.
and both of these futures are simultaneously possible right now, and which way we go with it depends on our actions as a society in the next 5 to 10 years. So this is why we wrote the book as a debate. So I take the more optimistic perspective, and Lewis takes the more I guess realist or pessimist position, because we wanted to make sure that whatever people read, they understand both sides of the equation, because every technology is a two-edged sword. There's a way you could use it to help people. There's a way where you could use it to hurt people, and simultaneously both are possible, right? With every invention, whether it's fire or it's nuclear energy or it's a hammer, you could use it to hurt people or you could use it to build a house, right? So we need to have the understanding of what's possible and what the risks are, so that we can prevent and minimize the downside and maximize the potential. Right? So this is why we wrote the book. So we talk about the two sides, and at the end we say, here's all the things that we can do, no matter who you are, whether you're a corporate leader or a government leader or a AI lab person or a student. What can you do to make the world lean towards the positive?
Yeah, because apparently there is a kind of specialists that are talking and alerting the world that, hey, it's going to be very powerful, but it's going to be only in the hands of very little people. I mean, very like corporations or very few governments, maybe like 3 or 4 governments on the whole world can control this, because they have the power to do it. They have the technicians, I mean, the money to do it, and also on the hand of the corporations that sometimes they really are looking for money and to for profitable situations and not really for the development of the equity in human beings and the human rights, you know. So I think it's also something that we can concern. I mean, recently the United Nations created a big discussion about the topic and became with the Pact of the Future and things like that. So what do you think? You mentioned not only in this book but also in another different kind of articles that you have, that you provide us like not only the provide us with awareness of this, but also with some advices. Can you tell us about this?
Yeah, so recently I wrote a few page posts on the Substack, and because the thing with books is that they're very good for thinking long form, but unfortunately it takes a long time to write and a long time to publish, so they become a little bit more dated. Whereas digital posts and publications allow you to keep up to date in terms of new ideas. So recently I started to post more on Substack to write essays about things that are on my mind. And one of the ideas that was in the book is called abundantism. And it's essentially saying we need to change our philosophy of how we operate as a society because our environment is changing. In the last 10 or 12,000 years, humans have moved from 5 million people to about 8 billion people. And we've also moved from small tribes of 20 or 30 or 50 people tribes that are hunter-gatherers that move with the food source to now cities of tens of millions of people in one place and hundreds of millions of people or billions of people in a country. And when we have this large concentration of people, we we start to create hierarchy. We start to create power, sources. We start to create things like money that we use to be the lubricant that makes the economy grow. Unfortunately, all of these things are us adapting to an environment that now makes us feel the sense of scarcity. Right. Before the hunter gatherers, they only work maybe 2 to 3 hours a day to hunt and get some food, and then the rest of the time they spend socializing and
Yeah,
dancing and eating. Right.
if I
Uh,
just let me interrupt you to say this. I mean, there was a time, I think everybody, when you are growing up, just start thinking about the world you are and the body you have and how it's changing. And I just became with this like, oh, actually, everything in this world is about to feel, like to fulfill the needs of my body. I mean, I need a house, I need a car, I need a job, I need something to be paid. So I need to food and love. I mean, apparently it's everything in this world to really maintain our body. But actually, I want to say that the body is the only way you can stay in this reality, in this world. I mean, it's like our device, and it also needs to be charged, to be like feed, to have different kind of roles. Without your body in shape, I mean, you cannot be here. So sometimes I see like, so what's going to happen? Where are we going as human beings? Now with abundanism, if we don't need to really work for this, because I can hear that many people say, well, I also think that on Elon Musk that recently he mentioned, I mean, the problem will be like people really love to work because that gave them the purpose of their lives, like make you feel like valuable, like you count. Actually, we measure ourselves in our society for how much money we earn. So if we don't have these new needs, not only if we need to work, but how is then the revolution will be for the people from the states? You are talking about a new social pact of
yeah.
human beings?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Among,
think there you have a few different questions there.
okay,
But
yeah, a lot of things. You,
but
you unpackage whatever.
yeah. So I think that there's definitely let me quickly finish my last
Yeah, the
thought
first
about
idea. Good.
the need for abundanism, because
Yes,
the,
yes,
the
yes.
the the environment is actually about to change because the technologies that we just talked about, whether it's AI or metaverse or it's robotics or it's bioengineering, we are going to have more than we need. We're going to have enough for everyone, right? Before there was always a lack because, well, not always, but for the last 10,000 years, there was a lack because we put a lot of people into a very small place. So we didn't have the environment that we used to have where we could move with the food and we always had enough. Now we will soon be able to come back to a place where everybody will have enough because these machines and these technologies will do all the production for us so
Yes.
that we don't have to um, use labor as the way that we generate value and money so that we can then buy the things that we need, right?
For the
So
basic needs.
yeah. So
Yes.
what that means is that we have to change our mindset that it's actually okay that we don't try to have the goal to be the richest person or the most powerful person, because our life should be more about other things in the world. If you talk to the most enlightened people, they start to realize, material goods is not the key. It's not the key to happiness, and it's not the key to success,
Yeah.
and it's actually the wrong goal, right? So if your pursuit is just in terms of making the most money or getting the most power, you're not going to be very happy, and you're going to be very busy, and you're going to actually put your life onto something that has relatively limited meaning.
Yeah.
And if you look at GDP today, right, countries, they're measured and companies, they're measured in how much money, how much production, how many widgets did I make? And the reality is that these machines are going to make all of these widgets in the next 10 to 20 years. All the cognitive work will be done by AI. All of the manual labor will be done by robots. So our ability to contribute to making things will actually go towards zero, right? So where should we be putting our energy? I think the idea is that our energy should be going back to things that actually only we can do. It's how do we contribute to service to our society, to our culture, to art, to wisdom. Those kind of things that are zero, they're not measured at all today in our GDP, right? The GDP does not measure if I raise good children. It does not measure if my elderly parents, am I taking care of them and giving them a happy, healthy existence. It's not measuring when I plant a tree and I help to create a better environment.
Yeah.
Those things are actually what we will probably spend our more of our time to judge, because those are the things that uh, are things that we can contribute to, even when AI and robots and clean energy does all the other things. We will still value our relationship with each other. We will still value our
Yes.
service to each other, right? And I think that's where we will spend most of our time. This is kind of earlier when I said the earlier cultures. What they did was they spent 2 to 3 hours gathering their food. The rest of the time they were socializing. They were spending time with their children, with their elderly, with family, with jokes, with dancing, with music, right? And those things today we see as recreation, but I think in the future that will be the majority of how we spend our days. And I think we can find as much meaning in that as we can in making spreadsheets and PowerPoints and manufacturing, some kind of goods, right? Because the idea is that for 95% of the history of our species, we lived in that small tribal hunter-gatherer society, and we found meaning because we are still here. We found meaning, we found purpose, and we found joy, right? And I think we will now rediscover the simpler things in life, or actually what is the most persistent happiness that you can get. Too much of today's media tells us, you need to have a big house and a big yacht and a private jet, and that's the key to happiness. And if you really
In
talk to the
my
people, you talk to the people who have this, and very few of them are really happy, right? And anything that you buy that you can have within a week, a month, a year, it doesn't bring you the happiness anymore, right? It's the novelty. The thing that really brings you happiness is seeing your children grow, learning things, having your health, right? If you're sick, it's very difficult to be happy when you're in bed,
yeah.
right?
When you
Being
have
able to
time.
go out in nature and be able to breathe the air, those things they're free. They're free, right? They don't cost you anything, but they bring you lasting joy and sense of meaning. Because when you raise your children to be good people, they grow up and they contribute to the world, you feel a long-term satisfaction with that. It's probably a lot more satisfaction than you get with building a product or releasing some kind of a new software or something, right? So we need to take a re-look at what really matters and put our energy into those things.
We are like going to another big step of humanity. Maybe it will take like 60 years. Do you think that we are there in abundanism?
No, I think this is the difference between this particular industrial revolution versus the prior ones. We've had three prior industrial revolutions, and it took somewhere between 80, 60, and 40 years respectively to play out. And but this one that we are now going into, of AI and robotics and other new energy and biotech, all of these things are simultaneously maturing, simultaneously being deployed, and each of them are additive in terms of accelerating the pace of these things happening. And all of that is going to play out in the next, probably 5 to 20 years, right? Some of it will come earlier, but that's a very fast timeline for our society. Our society is not designed and built, and our institutions and governments are not designed and built for that pace of change. And this is why Lewis and I wrote this book, because we really wanted to let people wake up and understand we have to act differently, and we have to act with a different urgency than we do in the past. And particularly for the people who are in government today, because most of them are from older generations who are used to technology impact taking many decades to play out. And this one is most of the impact is going to happen within the next 1 decade.
In the next 1 decade. But to arrive to the abundanism, what do you think? I mean,
I think that will probably take 20 years or so if we do the right thing. I think the difference.
So we really eradicate poverty and starvation and that kind of
Yes.
countries from the, I mean, in the global south are
Yeah.
not going to be suffering as we are
Yeah.
now.
I mean, you can look at the example of just China as a country, right?
Yes.
Within 20 years, they went from probably 60% of their maybe 80% of the population designated as the poorest of the world. Back in the 80s when I was there, in the 70s, yes.
Wow.
To essentially now they declared zero poverty in the country. Based on
Really?
kind of yes. So there, if you go in, there's very few people, if any. Actually, I don't think I've seen any in the last few years of people on the streets and living like a homeless. America, the richest country in the world, you go into any big city and you will see people living and sleeping on the streets, right? So this is the problem: is that we have enough. Every country has enough to allow their people to live with dignity. We just need to make sure that we share it properly. And unfortunately,
So we can
America,
make it.
yeah, we have abundance already today. We need to distribute it properly, and in the next 5 to 10 years or 20 years, we will have more abundance than we know what to do with. But we have to appreciate it, realize it, and make the decisions that are needed to actually have it be shared and have the mindset to share. Once we've made that change in mindset, then technologically and resource wise, it is absolutely possible.
Alvin, but how can it be possible? I mean, do you think that will be like from the top to the bottom? Or is the revolution needs also a lot of people to be aware to really work for this to happen? I mean, from the bottom to the top.
Yeah. So here's the hardest part right now, is that there is a natural immune system in the economy and in the government that wants to preserve the structures that we have, because those structures benefit the people that are at the top. And those people at the top, whether companies or whether countries, feel that position that they have is important to them, and they want to maintain it. What they don't realize is that the effort to try to maintain this power and the hoarding of resource, that is the exact thing that will destroy our planet. Because what is going to happen is that this technology will put superpowers and
Yes.
capabilities into the hands of a few people. If they share it,
As
then
it is
everybody,
now, actually.
yeah, as it
Let's
is
say it.
now.
It's like now.
And yes, but even now today, they have a certain level of power. But in the near future, they will have almost ultimate power, right? They become gods, right? In the sense of if they wield this technology, they become gods, and they could destroy the world, or they could feed everybody and make everybody comfortable. We need the people at the top to realize that the more they try to hoard, the more they use the logic that's made them successful in the past, the more we will create conflicts where different countries and different companies will fight to be that one, leader for the world. And when they do that, they will unleash the forces that will destroy the world, or they will unleash the forces that will create a ultra stratification where you have a few trillionaires and then everybody else at the bottom who have nothing and who have no job and who have no food and have no way to be part of the productive side of our society and without hope, right? All of these issues that you talked about, that's a very possible world right now. The world where we take this technology and share it with everybody is actually the unlikely future. It is not the future. It is not the default future that will happen. In fact, unless we actively promote and educate the public, educate the leaders about their role in creating this future, the default is to be either we destroy ourselves or we create the stratified, dystopian multi kind of two prong, two extreme futures, right? And I think that's the thing that what you said earlier is important. We have to do it from both sides. One is we have to go and directly talk to the policymakers and the government leaders, but we also need to educate the general public to know that they can actually play a role, right? Because in the past, what always happens when you have these type of disparity and injustice is that there's a revolution, right? And the revolution essentially creates a shift in power.
Yes.
And if we create the problem is that if these people at the top who controls the technology, if they utilize this technology, they could actually use it to control the population to maybe subdue the revolution before it happens, and to brainwash the people and to make them feel that this is right and that they should not go and switch and that's a thing that they could do, and whether to using AI to brainwash people or using robots to create weapons that scare people from doing anything, right? These are all possible futures.
Yes.
And we need to help people understand that when they create that future, that is a future that actually ensures that we have thousands of years of suffering and a unpeaceful world. Whereas by sharing the technology, by sharing the data, by sharing the compute, we actually can allow AI to help us find the right balance that allows every culture, every country to coexist in a peaceful way and to be able to distribute the content, to distribute the resources we have so that everybody can win. Because that's what it's very good at. It's very good at solving complex problems that human brains are very hard to solve because we have our emotions, we have our biases that are part of being human, right? And we need to bring in these AI to help us make those bigger, longer term decisions and think longer term and think more systematic and not be biased by our upbringings and our cultures. Right. So I think there's definitely a very difficult road ahead for us to solve this problem, but it is a solvable problem. I think that's the thing we have to realize.
However, there, education has a lot of power now. I mean,
Mm.
I see in some schools that they are really banned, like mobiles, AI. Don't use AI. Don't use any kind of chat GPT to do your homework, your thesis, your books, your research. You need to do it to effort yourself. And say like, hey, come on. I mean, that is the next reality, as you mentioned. And how is school playing the role now? I mean, I think we need to change. to really
Yes, yes.
what do you
I
think?
think that this is one of the biggest issues. Is
Issue.
if you want a public to stand up and speak up, they have to be educated. They have to understand science and politics and economics and all of these things, and they know they're making informed decisions because
Yes,
if you have an uninformed public, then you have a highly manipulable public
exactly.
that the leaders can use for their own benefit. And AI is actually one of the solutions that can solve this problem because these AI systems have been trained on every book, every research paper, every philosopher that has ever existed, and that information is accessible to any user who has a phone, right?
It changes your mind.
And we should not be afraid of it. We need to leverage it as a way to give every child the personal tutor that they need to be able to reach their ultimate potential. Right now, the problem is that we have an education system that is creating machines. We are teaching everybody to be the same, to think the same, to use the same logic, and to memorize formulas and rules. And what we need to do is actually to teach kids how to be better humans, how to think critically, how to be able to resolve conflict, how to have empathy for other people, how to understand that materials is not the source of happiness, how to create the curiosity in them so that they want to have the drive to learn, not just to learn something to pass a test. Right, there's so many issues with the way that we have structured our education system, because our education system today was designed to create factory workers. It was designed to create people with limited understanding so that they can do a very specific job, to be part of an assembly line so that they can be so that they would be obedient to their managers, right?
Exactly.
Why do we have bells when the school has each period? Because in the old factories, they used to have bells that say your shift starts now, you go to work. Your shift ends now, you get off work, and you create this training for the children to be able to go into the factory system, right? And we are now moving to a world where we don't need to be in factories anymore. They are creating things called dark factories, where robots do all the work and AI does all the planning, and they create complete products out, right? And that's where the world is more and more going to go. And we need to spend more time dealing with each other. I think we need to spend more time teaching our kids. Having right now we have a 1 to 20 ratio of teacher to students. We should have a 1 to 1 ratio of teacher to students, or maybe a 5 teachers to 1 student ratio. That's the kind of future that would help make better humans, that will have the right values and care more about their contribution to the world than about the number of commas in their bank account.
Yeah, because I mean, in a very simple way to put it, AI, like artificial intelligence, basically is like a model of language that learns about our reality and try like to make connections, let's put it in that way. But we are not feeding from everywhere this kind of artificial intelligence. So it's like underrepresented some realities, some kind of people, some thinking. When you really actually go and ask the artificial intelligence, like Midjourney or anyone like them, like create a video with the next reality. How is our future is going to be? Really, it is dark. It is dangerous. I mean, if you ask them, because sometimes we think like it's like an oraculous, and you ask how it's gonna be the future. What do you think humanity should do to manipulate everyone or create a mobile phone? Really, like so. It's like somebody is really teaching the artificial intelligence into this kind of mindset. But we need the other side really to feed it. So
Well,
that came up
that
with more illuminating side of the world.
yeah. So I mean, this is the same. That if you think about what the AI systems of today are, they are modeled after our brains, right? They have neurons, they have weights, they have connections
Definitely.
between them, and just like us, if we lived in a society where we only read one kind of book, one philosophy, one perspective on the world, then when we grow up, that is the perspective.
That's your
And
way to
and
be.
Yes, and what we need to do now is to make sure that we actually share information, whether different cultures, different languages, different religions, different versions of history. Right? We all know that history is written by the victor. The problem is that when that happens, you have a very biased perspective of history. So you need to see the history from all the people.
Definitely.
You need to you need to see why these things happen, so that we can learn from history versus celebrating the winner. So the issue today with how most governments and a lot of governments are today is that they are trying to create what people call sovereign AI, is the AI that represents my country and my perspective. And what we need to do is actually to create a global AI, not a sovereign AI, because sovereign AI means that you're narrowing what you feed them. You are giving them one view of the world. And when they have one view of the world, what that shows is that the group that's training them is the good person. Everybody else is the bad guy, is the enemy, is dispensable, right? That if I need to optimize the system, as long as my in group wins, then I have won and done a good job. And what we need to teach these systems is that for for the system to win, everybody in the planet's perspective should be taken into account. And how do we maximize global welfare, global flourishing versus the success of a single country or single company?
Yeah. And actually, we have, I mean, very, very little minutes left. So I really like to move our conversation to a very important topic you came up with, that is the Bill of Rights,
Yes.
AI
Yes.
rights. So
Mhm.
can you tell us about this? Like, it's like AI human rights, kind of.
Yes. Yeah, so essentially, in the late 1700s, after the Constitution was made in America,
Yeah.
the founding fathers talked for a few more years, and they decided to create something called the Bill of Rights. It was 10 rights because of protecting the human and the rights of the individual, whereas the original Constitution was about how the country as a whole operated, but it didn't protect the individual rights. And that's worked well for us for the last 200 something years, right? We were essentially moving from a pre-industrial age to a industrial age. Now we are moving from an industrial age to a post-scarcity age. And if we go to this post-scarcity age, we need a different mindset and a different set of protection and rules. Because before, it was really about your right to property, and your right to speak, and your right to have bear arms and have guns and things like that to protect yourself.
Yes.
What we need to now go think about is that when we have now technology that is able to control your minds, we have technology that can destroy you without you even knowing that they exist, by having little tiny drones that will come to your house and kill you. Right? We need to prevent these kind of potential misuses of the technology, get ahead of it. We need to make sure that people are not using this to brainwash you into doing things. We need to make sure that there's transparency of the information, that something is real versus something that is synthetic, and allow you to make an informed decision. Right? There's all of these things that are now risks that were not risks 100 years ago, and get ahead of that problem. And we also need to do something else, is that we need to start thinking about what the future would be like when AI actually starts to have some level of agency for itself. Because we are now moving to AI that used to be a tool that just does what you do, to now we have agents that does tasks of what you do. But in the next 10 5, 10, 20 years, we will have AI that will start to have its own agency, to have wanting its own goals. Right? We need to set a good example for them of how good
We behave
a good ethical moral behavior, right? So that
with them,
when it learns from us, because it
not
will
them with
essentially,
us.
yeah,
We as human with them, with
so
the
that we
new
can,
beings, as
yeah,
Jeffrey
yes,
mentioned.
so that we can coexist with them, and they can see us as their parents, and we can see them as our children. Just like we would want our children to be successful and healthy, they would also want their parents to be healthy and successful, right? And thriving. And we need to create that balance. So this is a set of 10 rules that I think is a different way of thinking about our relationship with each other, our relationship with technology, and in the long term future, their relationship with us.
Definitely. Well, Alvin, I mean, we can talk and talk about this topic that is amazing and passionate. Just to finish, I like to ask you, what do you advise people like me, ordinary people, that we have, or sometimes we don't feel like have the power, the knowledge, the money, I mean, the age to really came up and disrupt our reality, and we are just like waiting what's coming next, what is the next device, and we are like early adopters of technology, but can we have power, can we do anything, what do you think?
Well, yeah, I think we all have power, and more
Okay.
power now than we have ever had as individuals, right? If
Yes.
you look at the power of social networks today, they can amplify any idea. Back in I think it was the 1800s, Edward Linton Bullard, he wrote the words, the pen is more powerful than the sword. Remember that, right? And what he was saying is that if you give good ideas, that's actually more important than using force to be able to change things, using revolution to change. If you can change minds, and today, with the resources that we have to reach potentially billions of people on these social network platforms, you have like, something like a TikTok with one follower. If they make a good video, they can be seen by a billion people, right?
Yes.
We all have good ideas, and we all have our voices, and we need to make sure that those voices are heard. We need to make sure that our government leaders and our corporate leaders realize that we know what's going on, and we want them to take into account the greater good, not to see technology and as weapons, or not to see technologies as a way to create personal gain, but to see this technology that we are creating as a public good that can uplift society. And we need to be the butterfly that flaps its wings and creates a storm on the other
Yeah.
side of the
Yeah.
planet.
Definitely. Yeah. Amazing. Yes, definitely. Well, I think our governments are about to change maybe. And what was like democracy and sovereignty, as you mentioned, and is changing, will need to change to have the metaverse powered by AI.
I think that the governments, a lot of governments, we live in democratic, a lot of countries are democratic in the sense of people do vote, and they do have an effect on their elected leaders. Sometimes maybe elected leaders don't listen.
What is your bet for the next five future years?
Well, I think, as I said earlier, I think that the next 5 years is actually the most important 5 years of the history of our species.
Wow.
And how we behave is really the key. And I think everybody that's listening to your podcast or your video should think about how they can play a role, how they can be the David
Yes.
that changes this future. Because the future that comes in the next 5 years, I don't think anybody knows, and it can be very good or it can be very bad. And I think the only way to make it very good is to go and
Involved.
play a part, to vote, to express yourself, to invent, to create, to to
To
to to
appropriate the
take,
technology.
to take action in terms of bringing about the future that you want, not to be apathetic, to accept that the future that somebody else wants to give you.
Exactly. Definitely. Alvin, so much amazing this conversation. Thank you so much for this. Um, I really hope you still like working that hard to make us be aware of what's coming next. And we are here anytime. If you need anything in this side of the world, we are here to spread your comments, your articles, because are very important. As we agreed, we need to really be involved and engaged and creating and learning to create also the future, because the future is not done. So we really need to take part of it.
Yeah, I cannot agree more, and I appreciate all the things that you're doing. And please share the links of some of these articles to your
Yes.
audience, because I think they would benefit from a deeper reading.
Definitely. Please, we will have it here in the description of our different kind of platforms. So thank you very much, Alvin.
Very good. Have a
Bye.
great day. It's nice
See you
chatting with
soon.
you. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye.